Preparing live stream. Just live stream the webinar. I hope to gosh this works. Here we are. Oh, wow. Okay. Awesome. We are live. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. This is Doc Skinner with 1028 Live. On our first live show on YouTube in a long time. Sorry for the confusion, but for some reason, Facebook did not want to play with us tonight. So here we are on YouTube. So what I'm going to do really, really quick is I'm going to share this to Facebook so that people can still see it. And I'm going to do that real quick. So apologies for the delay. Live show on YouTube. Sorry, folks. Okay. All right. Put that to my story into there, and boom, we're good to go. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think they can. Oh, they do. They can see me. All right. I've got the wrong window. I thought this was the other one. So tonight it is Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. And there was some horrific news that hit the media this morning about 9 shot in Mexico from cartel. And all I could say, it's a very, very small world. But, you know, things like that can touch closer to home than you think. I'm not going to go into any details, but all I'm asking is for prayers for the family and the victims of the shooting this morning in Mexico, the Mormon family that were on their way to a wedding, which is just pitiful. So I'm late and I'm on YouTube when I was originally on Facebook, so I apologize, but I had to pull out a bunch of credit cards and pay for a bunch of stuff just so I could pipeline this in. And lot of stuff going on. I just got back from L.A., specifically Van Nuys area, and Long Beach from an amazing weekend for the premiere of Turnover. If you haven't seen it, you're in the Van Nuys or California area, you can check it out all the way up to the 7th. There's 5 shows a day at the Van Nuys Regency, I think. And then we have November 14th on Valentine's Day. Turnover will be premiering in Phoenix. So if you can get a chance, check it out. Go to turnoverthemovie.com or on Facebook, and you can check that out as well. And right now, I would like to say a little something about our sponsor, Psionics. If you don't know who Psionics is, you soon will. Please check them out. Go to psionics.com. That's SIONYX.com. And the footage you see on their homepage is the footage that you can record with this little bad boy right here. This is the Aurora Sport. You can see it's not that big. It's not that big, but it packs a punch. I'm telling you. This camera is not that great. There we go. Hey, so you have your your switch here. You got your camera. Right, go the other way there. Camera. You get, and it turns on. It makes that cool sound. You got your video. You got your loop. You got your playback and your Wi-Fi where you can watch it on your phone, which is pretty nifty when you're trying to show multiple people. So this thing is a little badass and an awesome gift idea for this holiday season. Now you're probably thinking, well, what is it? It's just a camera. Yeah, well, it is a camera. That is true. It's a really awesome camera that can mount to a tripod or to a rifle. But this little bad boy right here is the first ever full color night vision camera. That's right. You can take this puppy outside, look at the stars. You may see maybe 50 to 100, depending on where you're at or where the light pollution is there. And with this, it multiplies it by, I'm not being scientifically accurate, but from where I'm at, I'm up here on the mountain, you can see a good, couple hundred up there. But with this, it's like hundreds of thousands. Like there's more stars that you can see in depth than you can see black space. The darkness of space. It's the coolest thing, because you see it in full color. So I'm pretty sure there's gases involved and probably light spectrums, but every star and planet twinkles in different colors, and it's very, very cool, and it's very, very defined. I love this thing. It is probably the coolest man toy I've bought because 46 now, and I didn't buy a Corvette. I bought this. But let me tell you, this is not as expensive as a Corvette. Um, I was talking to a security a gentleman today at a casino, and he said, "Oh yeah, just $3,000. Simple." Well, yeah, you would say $3,000 because it's that awesome. This puppy right here goes, you ready for this? Holiday seasons. And I have a special code for you for when you do checkout. This little bad boy goes for $399. That's right, $399. Yeah, our guest just saw it. So this thing is called the wait, I had it focused. There we go. This is the Aurora Sport. Okay, this is the smallest one. Then they have the Aurora, which is a beautiful forest green tone with different color tones of forest colors. And its upgrade capability is digital GPS and compass, so you know where you're at, what direction you're pointing, and have all that information there digitally. Now it records onto an SD. I'm trying to keep this up here. Let me do this like this. There we go. It records onto an SD card up to 32 gigs. Screen resolution is 720 for now. Hopefully one day it'll go up to bump up to 1080, but it looks really good. 720 up to 60 frames per second, 30 or 60. And it doesn't just shoot at night. It can shoot right here. It's got your settings. I don't know if you can see that. Your settings here, you've got twilight, nighttime, and day. So this thing isn't just for night use. You can use this on the field if you're watching a kid's sports game. You can film this as well. But let's say it goes into a night game. You just switch to the setting and boom, this thing is awesome. Now if you really really want to get hardcore, they do have the Explorer edition. Now the Aurora Explorer edition comes in a nice beautiful pelican case with all the extra goodies, including a flashlight that you have to use the camera to see, so you can light up the whole thing. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So check it out at psionics.com. It's let me make sure I say this right, SIONYX.com. The videos you see on that website are the videos that are shot with this camera. Okay. And if you decide to do it, which you should because it's awesome, and a great gift idea. It's new. It's the hottest thing on the market. It's brand new to society. I'm sure the military had it for a while, but now we've got it. So get one now, $399 before prices go up. And in the discount or in the discount coupon code thing in your checkout, type in, very simple. You ready for it? It's not the code it was before Halloween. That was different. It is now DOC 1028, Doc 1028. That's right. Put in that code and let them know that you saw it here on 1028 Live, and they will ship them out to you directly. Simple as that. And you get a discount too. So yeah. Anyway, love it, love it, love it. You'll be hearing me talk about it till the end of days because it is that awesome. All right. So let me put all this stuff away because we were having technical difficulties earlier. I hope you're all having a wonderful Tuesday evening. Thanksgiving is going to be sneaking up on us in about a couple weeks. What are you guys up to? Let me see. Let me see. Oh, I didn't do this, did I? Let me do this real quick. I did do that. I thought I hadn't posted it.
Do it again.
Yet. Leave. Do it again. All right. I'm going to cancel out of that so I can. Hey, we've got Precious G4C says she's here. Isabel says hi. John, of course, is here. Precious says it's an amazing camera. Yes, it is. It is. I want it. Love looking at the stars. If you are into looking at the stars, or if you're in astronomy, you got to get this. You just have to get this. It is amazing. And for the price, it's mind blowing. So let's see. So everybody, hi Doc and hi John. Great to see you on Doc's show. Loved your presentation at DoD Ventura. Hope all is going well with you. All right. Well, you're probably wondering who that is. So hold on. Thanks, David. For those of you who don't know, my guest tonight is former FBI agent of many, many moons, and he's got many, many stories. But he also has a lot of other things that he's working on, and one of them is what we're going to be talking about tonight. and how it's going to solve a lot of things. So, without any further ado, we've already paid the bills. I've said my hellos. Ladies and gentlemen, with a click of a button, hopefully, John DeSouza.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you. Am I getting some echo here? Let me see. Okay, that's off. I should be good on echo. It's great to be with you here, Doc, on 1028 Productions, and I am so happy about this. And wow, I need one of those cameras, man. That looks awesome. I want to be your full-time chorus when you're on, okay, so that it can be in the background saying, "You go, boy, you go." Yeah,
my cheerleader, my cheerleader.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
Yeah,
you were my first guest last season, or was it this season? I've been going and going. I don't know where
it's
the
a
season.
blur.
I
It's
know,
all a
but
blur.
it's like 100 episodes ago. So I'm so glad you're back. I'm so glad that you're on board this year for Disclosure Con 2020.
Yeah, yeah,
It's going to be
that'll be
fun.
awesome.
And we've had
That's
some
gonna be
upgrades. So when you come out, you're going to be treated very well. It's going to be awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. You
I
and Bella,
like the
bring her
sound of
out,
that.
and we're going to have a great time. The fireside chat this year was stupendous. I mean, it was 3 times, if not 4 times bigger than it was last year. So, and the turnout was amazing. But yeah, anyway, so I have got a whole year to talk about all that. Let's talk about
Awesome.
what you're working on. Give people, first of all, give everybody your little 5-minute intro of, or
Yeah.
2-minute intro of
Yeah.
who you are, what you're all about, and then we'll go into
Yes.
this project.
I'm John DeSouza. I was an FBI special agent, retired for 25 years. And I was one of the people involved in the origination of an old show called The X-Files on Fox many moons ago. And and also since then, I've been gathering a lot of these X-Files stories and putting them in my books, which I publish. I publish for people. Those books have been very well received across the world. Best-selling books: The Para Investigators, The Extra Dimensionals, and The Clear Hearers. And so that's stuff that I go around the country presenting to people, as well as presenting to them my simple investigative techniques for people to use and to learn, to use, to practice, so that they can penetrate the mysteries and the deceptions of many modern day mysteries that we live through today with all these deceptions.
So, okay, for a newbie, could you explain what a para investigator is or a clear hearer is?
Yes,
So,
yes,
they just don't want it to go over their heads.
right. Para investigator is something a little rare, which is a true investigator. First of all, a true investigator is just a basic investigator who uses real investigative techniques and is actually open to finding the truth of mysteries and unsolved crimes. That's a true investigator. Uh, and I'll tell you right now, most FBI agents, most professional investigators are not true investigators, because they are only allowed to go to a certain depth and no further, and they're not allowed to go beyond a certain profundity on these investigations. So that's not a true investigator. Anyway, para investigator is a true investigator that actually goes that extra step and is able to use their own intuitive paranormal abilities to penetrate these unknown investigations, these unknown mysteries. Because what happens sometimes with these investigations is that they end up having no physical material resolution. And what happens then is that tells you that the resolution, the conclusion, is in the supernatural world. It's something beyond the material. And most investigators can't go that far. They just can't.
And is
A
that by
para
choice?
investigator can.
Is that by choice, or is that by higher ups and you don't want to dabble in that?
It's by both, because most investigators are just material investigators. They just don't, and because of their belief systems. Their belief systems are purely within the material. And so therefore, they can't go any further. They can't go beyond the material resolution. They can't entertain the possibility that something supernatural is going on there. Because if they did, they would be para investigators, and they're just not. They just aren't. And there's many cases of that. For instance, there's the case of when Richard Jewell was able to remote view inside a giant hiking bag and able to see that there was an explosive device inside there in Olympic Park Village in Atlanta in 1996.
During the Olympics,
And he
yes.
was, yes, during the Olympics, when there was this big celebration in the park. And material investigators who were FBI agents there at the time, they were unable to see beyond the material. So therefore, they couldn't accept the fact that Richard Jewell remote viewed into that package, and that's how he knew it was a bomb, because we all knew that he knew it was a bomb. That was apparent from the videotapes of him running around screaming at people, telling them, folks, this is a bomb. Get out of the area. Get out of here. And then, as they watched those videos over and over and over again, the FBI on the scene just decided, hey, he knew that was a bomb in there, and he never touched the package. He never opened the zipper on the hiking bag, and yet he knew it was a bomb that blew up and ended up killing one person. But if he hadn't done what he did, it would have killed 100 people.
Yeah.
And so their wheels started turning, and because they were just physical material investigators, they could not they could the only thing they could come up with how he would know it was a bomb was because he was the bomber. And that was their investigative conclusion, and it was the wrong one. And that investigative conclusion ruined his life and was incorrect, and it was wrong, and it was all because they couldn't stretch their minds beyond the material to see what really went on there, what really happened. So that's one quick example of the difference between ordinary investigators and para investigators.
Now, why isn't it considered paranormal investigator? What's the difference between that para and just paranormal?
Oh, because para investigator just goes to the techniques used of the investigator, which the para investigator uses all normal investigative techniques, but then they add something intuitive, something that's beyond. And here's the big secret about para investigators. And the biggest secret about them is this: whenever you see those grizzled old homicide detectives who look like really ordinary guys, they are actually para investigators. They use their instincts, they use their intuition. That's what makes them such great detectives, these metro city homicide detectives who find out all these incredible things but they're not allowed to say that. They're not allowed to say that they're using intuitive abilities. They're just allowed to say it's based on my knowledge, skills, and experience
Or my
and my
gut
know-how.
instinct. Yeah.
Yeah, my gut instinct. Sometimes they can say gut instinct, yeah,
Yeah.
but they're not allowed to say I use my intuitive abilities. They just can't. They just got to smoke a lot of cigarettes and pretend that it's just their gut instinct, like you said, and
So,
that's the way they get business done.
and they can't say, yeah, I borrowed a remote viewer this weekend, and here's your answer. They
Right?
can't say
Oh
that.
no, no, they can't. Even if that's exactly what they did,
Yeah.
especially then they can't say it.
Yeah. And I know that I've know Ed Dames, and I've heard some stories, and uh, they keep it on the down low. But finding, I think it was Saddam. Who was in the spider hole? Was it Saddam or Osama?
Yes, Saddam
Saddam. Yeah.
Hussein
Supposedly.
was in, at the end, he was in a spider hole of some kind,
Yeah.
and he was hiding in there, and somehow they located him. And
Supposedly
that,
through remote viewing.
yeah, that was an amazing thing that I'm sure he was not expecting.
Hmm.
And then that's when they pulled him out. And there's many other famous examples of that sort of thing going on in both military operations and law enforcement. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's go. You're talking about this project that also involves, what can I say it? The the the
What's that?
the app you're working.
Oh,
No?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
working on developing an app that is going to be showing, it'll just be the John DeSouza app that is basically going to be boiling down well, now I call it the case system. And its case system uh, is just something that is a person's able to use several steps to put together their investigation and pursue and uncover any sort of mystery or unsolved crime that has ever existed throughout history. And they're able to penetrate. It's going to be artificial intelligence app that will apply all these steps with various ladders of understanding and procedure that'll then be put together, merged, so they can penetrate these mysteries like what's gone on with Jeffrey Epstein, for instance.
Yes. Now, we did mention his name in the title, so we definitely want to talk about that in a little bit. So, doing these things. Okay, so I'm wondering when you're talking about this, I'm thinking about cold case files. Are those para investigators?
Yeah,
Because I
well,
mean,
cold case.
cold cases. Yeah.
Yeah, cold case just means old investigations that have not been resolved, have been brought to no conclusion, and have basically just been put into pending inactive status and just kind of left there. And there's so many of those. I wouldn't say they've been given up on, but they're just in a status where nobody's looked at them for a long time. And there's many cases like that throughout history. If you really want to be technically speaking, the Donner Party mystery is a cold case. That's a criminal enterprise
Mhm.
that because of the cannibalism. That's
Yeah.
a criminal enterprise that has never really been finally solved. Also, another great one, historical, is the Dilatov Pass incident. Do you know what that is, Doc?
Was that the one up in the mountains where they were like camping and
Yes, in
everything was
Russia
clawed
in the
up, and but
50s.
yeah, their
Yes,
bodies were found.
yes.
Yeah,
That's one of the very famous cold case mysteries that has never ever been solved, and that's largely because the ones in charge of that mystery at the time were Soviet Union investigators, and
Mhm,
the Soviet Union was not going to allow anybody to
mhm.
come in, and also that had association with top secret files. So it was all classified top secret as well. So the Dilatov Pass incident, that's one that has always intrigued me, and it's
What is
one
your
of the
theory on it?
well, I have several. I have several, but I can tell you just some of the elements. The Dilatov Pass, for what people who do not know, is a group of hikers, mountaineers. How would you
Mhm.
call them?
In the 50s or
Mountaineer kind
60s?
of hikers in the 50s who were getting through this very dangerous pass between mountains in the Dilatov region. And some of them were reportedly were scientists and scientific personnel. And for some reason, there is evidence that many of them were in the middle of the night, were surprised inside of their tents. Okay. Now, that's very important, not outside of their tents. They were actually sleeping, and the evidence shows that they were surprised inside of their tents. In other words, no approach, no steps through the snow left leading up to their tents, but it's almost like something appeared inside of their tents and basically tore them apart, tore them to pieces. In some cases, they came running out of their tents at top speed. They were chased down. And again, they were either bludgeoned to death or torn apart as if by some kind of animalistic power that just kind of tore them apart. And the entire site was basically investigated by Soviet Union, again, Soviet Union investigate police personnel, but they were associated with military, and the military came in and classified everything top secret, and nobody was ever allowed to really try to find out what actually happened at Dilatov Pass. And that whole thing was, even after the Soviet Union fell, that has never been revisited by the Russian government to try to, get some perestroika, get some openness about the whole incident and
Yeah.
get the mystery resolved on that. So the elements of my theories on that is that I do believe that there was breakaway technology, other technology that was used in the Dilatov incident by someone, by malefactors maybe, who used some kind of transportation technology to make something appear inside those tents, some kind of creatures, I believe. And those creatures were hostile, and those creatures were what tore those scientists apart. And I believe it was part of a top secret military operation, not one that the military was in control of, but one that the military was at least aware of.
Like a Russian Wolverine or something
Exactly.
that could teleport
Exactly.
without leaving footprints.
Yes, that's what I think we're looking at there. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. But that's the sort of thing that my app would take on and that people could take on with that. And so that's the reason why I've been developing it. And I'm going to be creating these ladders that are going to be going into the artificial intelligence of the app. And we're going to be able to penetrate mysteries like that. Exactly. Cold cases.
So you see this? I see this as you're bringing the supernatural and science, because a lot of stuff that we now consider science was considered supernatural thousands of years ago.
Right.
Um, so it's complementary. It's coming together. I like that, showing that it's not all just puff and smoke and magic and stuff. I mean, there's a scientific method to why that is happening or how that is possible. Um,
Absolutely.
when you were talking about this, and it's a historical case. People can YouTube it and learn more about it. But the fact that there was mention in the documentary that I saw that they had evidence of them clawing or ripping their way out of the tent instead of going through the opening. They were, it's like something was
Right.
blocking their way and like, make a hole, Um, and then that the
Exactly.
fact that the bodies were ripped apart and left there, and people, it's insane, insane. Um, but yeah, a Russian Wolverine project. Probably get a knock on my door tomorrow. So, how long? Who who would benefit with this application?
Anybody who considers themselves a truth seeker, an investigator, basically anyone who wants to know the truth behind a lot of these things that society tells us are impenetrable.
Mhm.
You'll never know the truth of that. Neither will I. There's a lot of people who love to say that. Especially scientific personnel. I find they love to say things like that to people. Well, it's not really true. You can find out the truth of any situation. The only question is, are you willing to stretch out your credulity, the things you're willing to believe far enough for
Mhm.
your imagination to capture the possible truth of that situation and
Yeah.
the investigative conclusion of that situation? And a lot of people aren't. A lot of people aren't. That's why in that app, the first steps will always be self-qualification. Self-qualification, you'll have to do a survey in order to be able to do a certain type of investigation. Otherwise, you'll be restricted to just the purely material investigations that can be fully resolved in just the material world. You see, the killer was a regular person with a bloody knife who actually did this, and you can figure out, did OJ do it or did he not? Did he not? And that's as far as you're going to be able to go. You won't be able to really go into things like the Dilatov affair, the Dilatov incident, because that has in no way could have a material resolution in the physical world. There's just no way it can't.
Yeah, or because there was no footprints.
Right, exactly. So
I mean,
that right there tells you.
I mean, yeah. Uh,
And there's
It's
so
crazy
many
you brought that.
investigations like that.
There
You know,
is.
I was just watching I was just watching 411 Missing.
David
I
Politis.
forget Politis's work, which is tremendous work. I can't watch it too much because it makes me paranoid if I watch his stuff too much. But I mean, those cases are a lot of those cases are perfect little microcosms of cases that cannot be purely physical. When you have a couple that have brought their toddler, their 3-year-old toddler camping with them, and the toddler is running just 10 feet ahead of them, 10 feet ahead of them, and then runs behind a tree, and then suddenly the couple are just again they're just like 20 feet away from the kid,
Mhm.
and they look at each other, and because the sounds have stopped, there's no more sound from the toddler who was very noisy a
Mhm.
moment ago, and they look at each other, and there's no more noise, and so they both go forward to the tree that the kid
Ran
ran
behind.
behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they will go forward. They'll go over there, and there's nothing there. The footprints stop right there behind the tree, and then there's nothing else. Nothing. It's there's and then they have dogs that will get the scent of the toddler. The dogs will run behind the tree, and then the dogs will sit. They'll sit. Bloodhounds will sit. Dogs don't do that
Right.
unless there's nothing
There's
more
nowhere
to
to go. That's
follow.
the end of the line.
Right, right. That is a typical case that has, it doesn't have a material explanation. There's no physical explanation for that.
Yeah.
And then the toddler's body is then found, someplace far.
Miles
In
away
that
up on a
particular
mountain.
case, yeah, miles away up on a mountain.
And they thought he was
And
too
it's
heavy,
just, yeah,
for a bird to pick up.
right. And the boy was too heavy, but not only that, had no physical marks on
Hmm.
the body. The child's body was naked, but no sexual abuse and no marks, as if, it was carried away by a bird or something like that.
No
So
claw
there's
marks. Yeah.
literally, the body is pristine, absolutely pristine, except it seems to have died from exposure. It's like, how, again, that is not, there's no fully physical explanation for that happening. So that's another example of just investigations that cannot be resolved. And that's why para investigation is so important, because it's just, there's so many investigations that cannot be resolved in
Yeah.
just in the material.
Well, when you were describing that, because I know the story, but the tree makes me think of a scene. Have you seen the Stranger Things series?
Oh yes, absolutely.
When they get sucked into a tree, it takes them to the upside down,
Yes,
um,
yes,
and then they appear other places.
yes.
That's why I'm so into entertainment all my life, because there's elements of truth to the fiction, um,
Oh yeah.
and God, there's so much MK Ultra and all that. Anyway, so um, when do you think the app will be available for people to, or can they get it on an iTunes store or app or
Oh,
Google app
believe me,
or
once
what?
I have it, you'll be the first one that I talk to
Fantastic.
once I've got dates on that, because we're just in the preliminary stages of development with that. But I'll
Excellent.
definitely be talking to you once I have it, so that we can be distributing that.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I'm sorry we got a late start, but I guess Zuckerberg didn't want me to interview you live on Facebook tonight. So I have been threatening people that I was going to move over to the YouTube. God, I'm an old man. Moving over to the YouTube on the interwebs.
Oh, they're on that interwebs, or that there.
So, but I just want to say thanks to everybody that was watching tonight. We still got a few people on here. I don't know how many on Facebook because I'm not on there, but John, it is always awesome to have you on. I know you've got another engagement here at the top of the hour, so I don't want to hold you over, but I would like to have you come back.
Oh, oh,
For what?
I'm good for a while, if you're
Oh,
not,
you are?
if unless you're being kicked off. I don't know if
No,
you.
no, 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 no. I just earlier we
Yeah,
talked about you needing it just now because you had other. I just want to make sure we didn't invade on that. So,
yeah.
all right, cool. More to talk. Isabel says, "What you're making a bunch of sense, so that's good." And yeah, yeah. It's I
Because
didn't
we didn't
expect
even
the
talk
to.
about Epstein yet, so we can't.
No, let's do it. Let's dive right into
Yeah.
it right now. Let's get because the shocking truth of Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and the deep state. Go.
Okay. We've had news lately now that is supposed to, it's getting people real excited and really really interested. Like this is the big thing in the media, and the media is just showing these shiny objects for you to look at and pursue and all this. And what happened is they are, all they're doing is that they are changing the cover story for the Epstein saga. That's all they're doing. And this is something that the deep state does whenever they feel like people are getting wise to them, people are starting to unbury the truth. So previously, the cover story for this whole affair was that Epstein killed himself uh, with no help from anybody else, and he committed suicide. And so that was the cover story that was allowed to go out. Well, now everything basically is remaining the same, except they're just changing the cover story. Now the cover story, and they're presenting it as, wow, we really found something out that's really amazing. And this is revolutionary. So everybody should pay attention. And it is, oh, well, instead of it being a suicide, he was murdered while he was in prison. That's it. That's the change. That's the big change. Like that really affects the story here very much at all. I mean,
Mhm.
it really doesn't. And the reason that they change cover stories like that is because they are afraid that if they don't give people something, that people are going to keep pursuing the truth and they're going to uncover the real truth.
Mhm.
Because the real truth, as I've been saying previous to now, was that Epstein was smuggled out of prison. He was taken out by the white hats, and he was alive and well at that time, at least. He was alive and well, and they actually brought in a different body to be examined, a different body, and how they do the DNA checks and all that. That's a whole another issue. But I do not believe that that body is actually him. That the body they're doing the DNA checks is actually Epstein himself. I believe it was very well documented that they smuggled him out, um, probably to help with testimony and investigation back on the
Island.
island.
Yep. There's actually
Epstein.
footage from a drone of him
Yeah.
standing next to a golf cart talking to one of the employees until he notices
No.
the drone. Then he hops underneath the roof of the golf cart.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
And if that wasn't him, why would the guy need to jump under the roof of the golf cart like that? If
Right.
that was just some white guy who happens to just be resemble Epstein a little bit, then he would have just stuck around. I mean, it
Yeah.
would have been no big deal. But no, that guy in those pictures, he was very intent on hiding,
Hmm.
and that was so that really gives it away. That gives the game away.
Right.
And so now, and this is part of my case investigation system, and which is how I and case. It used to be the cuck system, but I went on television and I found out I can't say the word cuck, so it's so they made me. I had to change the whole. I had to change the acronym.
Acronym. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to change the. I liked cuck because it was it was based on don't be a cuck for the deep state.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I had to change the acronyms, and it's fine. This system has been changed many times over the years. It was originally developed during the Soviet Union for investigations, because to use this system, you have to be fighting against a total information control society, an Orwellian society, and that's what we live in right now. It's my argument. So, case stands for cover story collected. A, actions of the usual suspects. I, identify, collect, connect all clues. and S, seal and deliver final investigative conclusion. Case, spelled CAIS, as in this is our case against the deep state, the cabal. And so that's what we do. And each of these steps have, and that's the case system I've developed for investigating these matters. And the first step, cover story collected. What pattern has been established? And usually that you can always uncover by looking at the media, because the media always gets the same script.
Oh yeah,
across
all from the White House, right?
across yeah, across hundreds and sometimes thousands of outlets that all seem to have the exact same canned script of this is what happened.
There's actually a
And
video of showing a bunch of news stations from around the country reading the exact same story verbatim, just with different
yes,
inflections. And it's
exactly.
part of the control. I'm sorry, go on.
Exactly. Most media people at this point are not journalists. They are actors, and they are acting the part of journalists and news people who want to bring you news, but they're not bringing you any news. They're restricting your information. That's what they're doing. So, in the case system, the A stands for actions of usual suspects in this type of investigation or mystery. So, for instance, if you look at the Epstein case, uh, Epstein, the cover story was always the same. It was basically Jeffrey Epstein is an evil sex trafficker. They always have to say that at the beginning, in every one of these articles. Then they had to say Epstein has attempted suicide one time before. That was the cover story.
That was a setup.
Then right, the setup, exactly. And then the next step was Epstein now completed his own suicide with no involvement from any of the other many evildoers slash, Hillary, that want him dead. Okay. Uh, so that was the cover story. All they did now, they didn't really change anything else about the case except for the cover story. Now, the cover story, instead of he has attempted, so he completed his own suicide, is now just, well, he was killed by somebody else. So, wow, you guys really are finding out something important now. Well, it's not important at all because it's a red herring.
Mhm.
It's very similar to, for instance, when 9/11 happened, the 9/11 terrorist attacks happened. And for for a while, they thought that the whole thing was going to stick and that nobody would question anything. And then they started to get concerned that people were going to start pushing their questioning forward, especially after the report came out, the government report on 9/11. Uh, and that was just a tissue of nonsense.
Mhm.
So what they did was, and this is usually a double trick. It's a double trick. So what they did was they used their agent provocateurs to start this campaign called, and it's always pithy and easy to remember. It was called 911 was an inside job. 911 was an inside job. And that was the campaign that
Mhm.
was supposed to lead you away from the truth. Well, because they just changed the cover story very slightly. That's all they did.
Control
Well,
the narrative.
911, yes, exactly. And make you feel like, oh, you're getting to something now. Well, of course, 911 was not an inside job, even though they had all these agent provocateurs out there saying that it was. The reason it wasn't an inside job is because our federal government does not have the technology, the resources, or the ability to pull off what was done on 911. For one thing, there was blue beam technology that was used. I mean, that's the best I can describe it anyway.
The hologram.
There was technology and holograms and living explosives. Again, that's the best I can describe it. That were used, and other forms of technology that we do not have, and that the federal government sure doesn't. The United States government does not have either. The only ones who have that are the cabal. The elite powers in control. They are the ones who have that technology, and they revealed it on 911. And it was kind of a mess. It was also kind of a message to the nations, like, you better listen to us because we've got this stuff and we could do the same thing in your country.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, 911 was not it was not an inside job because the federal government doesn't have the ability to do the things that were done
But
on
the
9/11.
cabal does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you releasing that cover story, that adjusted cover story of 911 is an inside job. I mean, the cabal loves that because it takes suspicion away from them. People will stop digging into their connections to 911 and will just blame the United States federal government, which their only participation was the same participation that they always have in these cabal operations, which is stand down. Stand down your forces, stand down your Air Force, stand down this, stand down that. Just like with the JFK assassination,
Mm-hmm.
stand down.
Yeah.
And that's very easy for them to that was their involvement in 911, just like it always is in most of the operations. So my point with Epstein is I still fully believe, and I see when I released this information about a month ago, I saw many other commentators basically adopting the same thing that I did, which is that as you go through all the clues and connect them uh, in the case system, you go through the actions of usual suspects, and you see. And I do this analysis in presentations when I go see people in person. Then you have to identify, connect all dispositive clues. Well, just before Epstein disappeared, I will argue, there were not just one, but two massive blackouts
Yeah.
affecting the portion of New York City where the MCC was situated. Okay.
At Times
And
Square. Yeah. Blacked it
yes,
all out. That was supposedly the
yes,
first attempt on him.
right. Well, at the time it happened, even people in alternative media were saying that's the cabal doing blackouts so they can kill Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we believe. But the opposite was true. It was the White Hat Alliance that was causing those blackouts so they could get Epstein out and smuggling a different body in there to say that that was him. Because all the clues, if once you connect them all, they add up to that being the final conclusion on that. Also, the excellent true investigators on 8chan did an analysis of the Epstein body pictures that were released. And by comparative analysis, they proved that those pictures were not Epstein at all. As a matter of fact, it had many similarities to other bodies that are known by people.
The certain
Uh,
chef, I've been told.
yes,
The chef
also
that,
had,
that died recently.
yes, exactly. And, so those, the DNA tests that we see being done on the body may have actually been done before
Prior, yeah,
while
definitely.
those attempted suicides were supposedly going on. And they may have been accomplished with his real DNA, his real blood, but I believe they were done before he was smuggled out. So the final conclusion I had, and that I still have, is that Epstein is alive and well. He was smuggled out of the MCC by white hat allied forces, and he is cooperating with authorities towards prosecution of all of his former associates who are now breathing easy and believing he is dead. And that's what I believe is really, really going on. Now, with these case investigations, that doesn't mean that Epstein couldn't turn up dead later.
Right.
Uh, just because I know that my conclusion is correct. I do know it is for many reasons. However, that doesn't mean he's going to turn up alive later because once someone is classified dead, especially someone like Epstein, uh, it's a it's a free ride basically to kill them again. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? He's already dead. So if they
Double jeopardy,
decide that,
right?
yeah, exactly, there's no double jeopardy on that.
Right. Well,
So
I
just
heard from another show, David Zublik, who has always been on top of stuff before everybody else gets it. I don't know who his contacts are, but they're good. He supposedly got hands on documents that show that Epstein made a deal that allowed him to, 5 years in prison, but then he'd be exiled to an island on his own.
mm.
So that might be how they get him to disappear, but they may want to keep him around. I mean, all he needs is a freaking helicopter to come pick him up. I mean,
Exactly.
it's not
Exactly.
really truly exile in the day and age. Um,
Exactly.
but the man is just bad all around, um,
Right.
and the things that he's done. So let's see.
And
Yeah,
then as
I
soon
get
as
real angry about Epstein. Sorry,
yeah.
my blood starts to
Oh, for good
boil.
reason. For
Yeah,
good reason. I mean, it's and there's all kinds of there was all as soon as this incident was over, we had so much activity going on the island, at the island,
yeah. It was
including
raided by
mysterious,
the FBI was there. They were in
yeah,
all the compounds. Yeah.
and also we had mysterious fires that were maybe
Oh yeah.
disposing of certain evidence that maybe Epstein agreed was agreed that would be destroyed. Maybe evidence of ritual sacrifice that he personally had a hand in,
Well, they had the
and maybe
incinerators on the island too,
exactly,
like three
exactly,
or four of them. Why would you need that in a
exactly,
tropical island? And then
exactly.
the one thing that's always bugged me, why did they have an ambulance on that tiny little island? Unless it was for show or for rituals of some sort. And you can tell where they had rituals. It's all decked out, from the drone shots showing the island. It's like, oh, that's a ritual spot. That's like the big football field that had the ground lifted around the border of it, so
Yeah.
people going by couldn't see what was going on. Um,
You want to know why they had the ambulance? I can tell you.
Please, yes.
It was to provide machinery and stuff to keep kids alive who would otherwise have expired, so they can build up that adrenochrome in their
Yeah.
blood and they won't just die right away. It's the modern version of the old doctor standing by for torture victims. That's
Wow.
what it was for.
And it is. I mean, I heard that when the FBI was there, they found skeletons along underwater, out on the beach. Out a distance from the beach. And
Yeah.
what just creeps me out is a certain major cruise line advertised for a long time come and swim off the coast of St. Kitts or St. whatever the name of the place was. And Disney was right there with children and families
Exactly.
swimming where their bodies
Exactly.
buried. I mean, it's just
Exactly.
atrocious.
Yeah. I
And
don't
and
think
what's
that's a
so sad?
coincidence.
What?
I don't think that's a coincidence.
No.
The connection of Disney to that
Yeah.
cruise line.
Oh, no. Yeah, I was trying not to say it, but there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's everybody that watches my shows knows how I get about children and human trafficking, sex trafficking, SRA. Uh, that's the Alex Jones in me comes out. I just want to rage. Um, but yeah, it was very convenient that he died, because a lot of people wanted to
Yeah.
hear everything in testimony and on record that needed to be said, names to be said. But a certain candidate, recent candidate, supposedly has another victim under their belt, recently, that was murdered, and a woman in, it starts with an, not Morocco. It sounds like Morocco, but it's not. It's a small island, run by the Italian mob, and her car was blown up. It was the first time this island's ever seen an explosion with Syntex.
Hmm.
So yeah, because she was uncovering a certain recent candidate's misgivings. But anyway, yeah, I worry sometimes about doing my show, but whatever. We gotta
Don't
get out
worry,
there.
Doc. Everybody
Gotta get out
loves
there.
you. Everybody loves you. I think you're good.
Thank you, thank you. Well, let's see what else. So the cabal is insane. They are coming out since, I think it was 2012. No, 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 2016. I think they came out guns blazing. No more, innuendos. All of our rap music and all this stuff is all going to be straight out in your face. I know that they've got a lot of innocent people pulled into their belief systems. I mean, you can actually go to the Illuminati.com and become a member now. It's,
Wow.
yeah,
Really?
it's yeah. Um, and more people I meet, every now and then I come across one or two that are all for it, and they're like, "Oh, we know some." It's just like, um, its tentacles are stretching out further than before. So, and I think that's why the octopus is one of their symbols, like an octopussy as well. That was referenced in the James Bond film. Um, and now that I think about it, the octopus is one of their favorite icons or logos or symbols. And recently, in the past year or two, scientists have confirmed that octopus are, or is it octopi? And you call them multiple.
Octopi.
Yeah, that they are alien DNA. They can change
Wow.
colors, they can change shapes. They're smart. They can unscrew a jar. I mean, um, and they're unlike anything else. I don't know. If you look it up, they did. They came up to the conclusion that octopus are not of this earth. But then we can get into the
Wow.
whole planet that exploded between here and Mars and became the asteroid
Yes.
belt and the battle there. Maybe something landed here. Who
Wow.
knows?
Doc, are you going to do any of the questions off of the stream
Oh,
on the?
yeah. Let's see here. Awesome information. I heard that Epstein's body we saw could have been a clone. What are your thoughts on the use of clones, John? That was from David Dennis.
Yeah, I think David Dennis is. I think David Dennis is right because I think that the cabal is using clones uh, everywhere,
Mhm.
everywhere. We saw how many different clones Hillary had,
Yeah.
and I believe Obama had them also,
And
and
it's
I believe the
entertainers,
trick.
musicians, and sports athletes too.
Yes, yes,
And it's because
and
these
the trick.
cabals are buying them up like dolls and
Yeah,
either dating them for themselves or putting them in
yeah,
these arenas where they're having like celebrity death matches.
yeah.
And it's all from that company Clonate out of Canada.
Right. Right. And I think that the clones, so it's always possible you're dealing with a clone, especially because the trick is also but I do believe that the clones are limited in their abilities so that the clones, I don't believe can really give a speech, let's say, like a long speech for the person they represent, because I don't think they have that same ability
Like
as
there's
the
something
person.
separate. And it's funny you say that because
Yeah,
Paul Rudd has got a show on Netflix
I saw
uh, where
that.
where he wants to better his life. So he goes into a lab and he's like, "You're gonna wake up, you're gonna feel great." Well,
Yeah,
they clone him and send that home, and he wakes up in a grave in a bag and claws his way out. And then these two have to learn how to live together with one wife. I mean, um, those kind of things that are being thrown out there right into our faces and
yeah.
getting us used to that idea. There was Altered Carbon, I think, is another show where they grew people.
Oh, great show.
Then you have Westworld where they brought that back, and
Yeah,
that's all about people who find out, oh, I'm not really a human being. I'm a robot in a theme park.
yeah.
And it's that. Would you consider that training humanism or just or a part of it? I don't know. It seems like
It's
they're
a part of transhumanism, but it's mostly injecting the idea into the consciousness to prepare us for the
self-disclosure.
revealing.
Yes,
Yeah, for
I
the
really believe
revealing
that.
of. Yeah, and so I think the gentleman who asked about the if Jeffrey Epstein could be a clone, one of those situations. I think, yeah, especially when the clones are in a situation where they don't have to
Yeah,
talk and give long interviews or speeches. Like for instance, there were a couple of times recently when Hillary appeared in public and was giving a speech, and I had some people tell me, "Oh, there goes her clone again," because they believe that she was dead already. And I looked at the speech and I was like, "No, because no, that's her. That's really her." Because the clones, whenever they use their clones, the clones actually look younger and better than the original. And so that's how you can tell when, and also the speech pattern when they give these long speeches, you can tell that's the original. So that's how you can tell when it's not a clone, when it's the original. That's how I see it.
So the where she had her little hiccups and her jolts and whatnot, that was, you think, the clone, the one that collapsed going into the
It
bus on
it could have been. It could have been very well. Yeah, it could have been.
it
But
was
it
just
definitely
breaking down or something.
right. But it definitely was one of her clones, the one that appeared in front of the building, in front of Chelsea's building in Manhattan shortly
Oh,
after that incident,
yes,
and
I
did
agree.
the staged show trial with the little kid, with the little girl actress who ran up to her and said, and so that she could say, "Hey, I'm fine. Look at me. I'm great. I'm looking terrific, and I'm looking 20 years younger. I look great." And it was because that was her. That was her clone at that time. Yeah.
Right. All right, let's see what else we got here. Another great show, Doc. Always great to hear from John. That's from Mike. He also says, I hope John is right about Epstein spilling the beans. May it be so. Um,
Yeah.
Georgia says, glad to be included. Thanks. Isabel says, there has to be divine justice. And Steel Raptor 24 says Hydra, which which I think is about the octopus thing. Um,
Oh, he's not. He's not. Did he say Hail Hydra though? Is he part of Hydra?
no, I don't know. He just said
Oh,
Hydra.
okay.
With a thumbs up and an LOLs. Horseshoe crabs are unique as well. Copper-based blood. Copper-based blood. What do you know about that?
Nothing. I've never heard of that before.
I've heard of the like O blood or the alien blood. What is that? The one that only a few people have. It's a
I don't
special type of
know.
blood type.
I have O
Oh,
plus.
R negative or something like that. I
Okay.
think. I,
Okay. Phew. All right. I was scared for a second there.
you thought you you're really a star man, John. You didn't know? Let's see. How about human robots? Do they exist yet? I mean, real convincing ones. I had to say, me personally, and I want to hear from you, is uh, like that, not Sylvia, whoever that female robot is, that artificial intelligence, that looks kind of real. But they have others that look real. And now they got like love dolls that are real, that are robotic. I mean, it's getting really crazy.
Oh, what do you know about those, Doc?
I was on some news channel or something
Okay.
I came
All right.
across.
Just
Oh
checking.
no, the Chive channel. That's what it was. They play some
Okay.
weird stuff. Um,
You were just watching it for a friend.
it was at the bar. Come on.
All right.
All
All
right.
right.
But yeah, they
Be
got all
safe there.
these realistic, and then like I said, we have these shows like Westworld and Duplicity, Multiplicity. Michael Keaton back in the '90s. They
I
were they
remember
were
that.
they were pimping it out then, trying to get
Yeah.
people to consider it. Um, so I don't know. Terminator. I mean, James
Yeah.
Cameron. He knew something. What if he was just so
Yeah.
rich he knew about the cloning? He knew about all these robots.
Yeah.
It makes you wish you had the glasses from the movie with Roddy Piper. They Live. He
Right.
puts the
Right.
glasses on. Everybody that's not they're a skeleton or a weird looking creature. I wish we had those glasses because that would make things a
Yeah.
lot easier. Um, let's see what else we've got. I mean, so what do you think about human robots? I
I
mean,
believe
how
it's
far
very
off do you think we are?
possible. I believe it. Well, we are like 10 seconds away from it because it would just be a decision on the part of cabal forces that it's now convenient for them to release that technology in order to ensure our destruction somehow in some possible way, maybe by stopping reproduction, by the human race. That could actually
Which
go.
eugenics
That's
they
their
have
number
been
one
doing.
agenda.
Yeah, they have
Yeah,
been
that's
doing
their
that.
number one agenda. So the moment they make that decision that, hey, you know what, this could help us with our number one agenda item, stopping the reproduction of the human race, to release these human robots among the populace and just let them have it, let them have it for free, let them have it everywhere. And the moment that decision is made, like I said, we'll be 10 seconds away from getting those robots. Also, that would answer a lot of questions about things like the colony, supposed colony on Mars, for instance. How could they be having colonies function in a very successful way in a place like Mars, let's say? Well, human robots would be one answer as to how they could actually get that done and get all the mining done that they
We're
want
building the
done. That is
structures and the infrastructure, yeah. And NASA
exactly.
is working on
So
that.
yeah. So I do, well, NASA, I don't, it's the guys who haven't taken you back to the moon for like 40
Right.
years.
Let's skip
Yeah, I
them.
don't
We'll
think,
just go straight to Boston Dynamics. How about we do that? We'll talk about
yeah,
Boston.
that,
I mean, because
I
Boston
think that's a
Dynamics
lot.
has got the Terminator robots, going. They do
Good,
backflips. They can run. They can dodge.
good.
It's some scary stuff. And then you have people that are putting up these YouTube videos of, I mean, I don't know. They're not real, of course, but they look very, very real, of Boston Dynamic robots that lose their shit and start going off on everybody. Have you seen those? Where
No,
it
no.
shows that, because if you've watched Boston Dynamic videos, they'll have these gigantic robots and they'll be moving around and they'll have hockey sticks and they'll kick them and push them and try to knock them over. It's to test their gyroscope and their
Right,
balance.
right.
And somebody has taken videos where they have these Boston Dynamic, and it's pre-planned, of course, but they show them testing the robot and its abilities, and finally the robot's like, screw this, and turns around and like kicks one of them in the nuts and shoots them across the room, pulls out guns and starts going Terminator on them. And all of this is even though that's entertainment, it's going into the psyche to getting us, like you said, ready for when it happens. And when it happens, it's going to happen, like you said, in 10 seconds, all on a decision. um
Exactly. That's what I'm
I mean,
saying.
Star Wars, Clone Wars, come on. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all been there for, I who was it? Well, Frankenstein didn't clone, but yeah, that's the wrong term. Anyway, so there's that question answered for you. Who was that asked? That was Mike that
Steel
asked that,
Raptor
or Steel Raptor. Okay.
24.
No, that was Mike that asked. Steel wanted to know, what about the downloading of consciousness or memory? Could they do this with clones? I think that is what they do, right? They copy and paste the consciousness or
Well,
the
I think
brain.
it's the memories that they can do. Consciousness is a non-material matter that has never been solved uh, by anyone. They still don't even understand how it works or what it is. Uh, and I don't think the cabal is going to be able to resolve that particular problem as far as consciousness. So that's why people say, oh, the clones can't have souls. They can't have real souls. They can't have that spiritual spark because consciousness comes from somewhere else that
And
is
that,
unknown.
I I would say that's a good thing, because
Right.
once they have a soul, I mean, it's gonna get so murky with the laws, and, well, are they considered a human? Do they have rights? Um, but they're flesh and bone,
Yeah.
but they were made by man. And it's a scary subject. It's scary because we're so damn close to it. So damn close
I
to it.
think we are. I think
Yeah.
we're closer than we could ever know.
Yeah. Oh, someone corrected me. It's RH blood, negative blood. That's this,
Oh,
like, if you have that, you are something special. Uh, Barbara Baker wanted us to know who is the cabal. That's a whole nother show. Um, do you think you could describe the cabal in a couple sentences?
yeah. The cabal are the bloodlines, and we shouldn't call them families because they're not families. They are bloodlines that have supernatural fertility, for lack of better, because they are partly non-human. They are the 13 or so bloodlines that have existed since the beginning of the earth. They presided over the building of the pyramids. They presided over the Roman Empire and all the other empires since then, including Napoleon, including Hitler, and they finance both sides. They are the central banking dynasties that have always tried to empower themselves financially, economically, because they are lizard-like in their thinking. Therefore, for them, the economics is everything. They want to control primarily the economics of the nations, and that's why the Federal Reserve Bank exists,
Yeah, which
saying
is
that
not even a
because in this
federal
country.
agency.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
why they exist. And that is one of the things that for us to ever achieve, independence and our own sovereignty, get our sovereignty back for the United States, you have to overthrow the central banks.
yeah,
And that's the main thing. That's the thing that JFK died for. Lincoln actually died for. Even President Garfield, a lot of people don't know.
wow,
President Garfield in 1901, I think it was killed over the central banks, trying to make sure that we never get the central banks. And that's also why they tried to kill Andrew Jackson 3 times, because he actually did kick out the central banks out of the United States for a period. And as soon as he died, they came right back. So that's because they're multi-generational. They are not. They go from generation to generation, and if and their names even change, family names, because they're not really families, they are bloodlines. So anyway, that's what the
yeah,
cabal, that's what the cabal is. And they are completely in power economically over the nations. And but sometimes, like what happened on 9/11, they try to go into direct political control over societies, and that's what 9/11 was all about. It was them showing off their technology that they've got, to say to the other nations, we're in control of you, and you better do what we say.
right.
That's what it was.
Wow, that is well said in describing that. Next thing we got. Let's see. Caroline says, "Please, Mr. D'Souza, can you explain more what was happening on the 14th of October 2019? The humanity that retrieved their sovereignty, linked to what happened in Sobibor, Poland."
Some more.
So
Oh
you're
wow.
familiar with what this
That
question is?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I am. What happened? This is something that I talk about in my presentations,
Oh, okay.
that I take all over the world, actually. Um, the and once once the elite powers in control find out about this, they're going to take down this movie, doc. And this is actually a good subject for you because you're a movie buff, big
Yeah.
time.
Okay.
There was a movie made in in 1987, I believe it was. It was called Escape from Sobibor, and it was with Alan Arkin and the great actor who just passed away, the Germanic actor, or maybe he was Swedish, Rutger Hauer. Rutger Hauer, sorry,
Oh,
that was
okay.
it.
Yeah.
And but this was very early in their careers, and so they're very young in this movie. But this movie was the perfect, the best illustration. There have been many versions of this movie made over the years, including out of Russia. They've actually made movies showing this. But this incarnation of this movie was the greatest by far ever done because it was so authentic. Anyway, so I use Escape from Sobibor, the original movie from 1987, which, by the way, is available for free on YouTube and many other venues. It's people can just see it. But the last 9-10 minutes of that movie are the most intense and authentic uh, picture of the struggle that we are actually in today against the cabal and their agents and their minions. And it's just incredible because it's funny that no one has put this together until now, but the the symbolism, the archetypes, and the representations of everything that happens in the last about 12 minutes of that movie it's exactly what is going on today. It is amazing. You have represented there the media, the fake news media that is working with the cabal. You have the agents of the cabal. You even have Hillary Clinton represented in the last few minutes of that movie. And you have us and our escape from the system where I always argue to people, if you are resisting, you have escaped. You've made it past those fences. So that's, and some of us, we lose. We're going to lose some of us. On the escape from Sobibor that happened in Sobibor, Poland, was I think it was only the second time in Western history. I'm an amateur historian as well. The only other time an entire prison camp escaped from subjugation at the same time was Spartacus in Rome, when he had an entire prison camp. He was able to engineer the escape of the entire prison camp from tyranny, from tyrannical forces that were holding them. Anyway, the escape from Sobibor was the entire prison camp. And at that time, it was over 600 souls that were able to very carefully plan. And this was a very coordinated plan, like the plan that we have had since 9/11, where all these allied forces came together and they were going to effect a military overthrow of Barack Obama as president of the United States, because of the traitorous activities that he was effecting the entire time he was in the presidency. And they were stopped. These American generals, they were stopped, and they were brought into meetings with Donald J. Trump. And the only reason they stopped their plan was because Donald Trump agreed to lead the United States. Uh, and when I say the United States, he agreed to become president and lead the allied forces, the alliance, uh, because this is a global struggle. This is Donald Trump's part of it is a small part of this global power struggle that we're involved in right now against the cabal to overthrow them, to overthrow the central banks and all that. So Escape from Sobibor just perfectly encapsulates the struggle that we are in. At least the last about 9 or 10 minutes of the movie just shows perfectly every component of this struggle that we are in. And the anniversary that the young lady refers to is October 14th. It just passed. October 14th, 1943. That was when the escape from Sobibor happened. Over 600 souls, after many obstacles. I mean, they actually had little boys who were part of the camp who were in charge of undoing the fences. So the fences would be unlocked when the charge went forward and everyone charged out. Those little boys unfortunately got in a conversation with the commander, and they were questioned, and then they were shot by the commander of the camp. And that commander might as well have shot himself, because the Germans ended up killing him because of his failure after everything was done. But he killed those little boys, so the fences were still sealed with chains and locks. And the decision was made by the rabbi and the Soviet soldier, who were Alan Arkin and Rutger Hauer, represented by those two actors, who basically told everyone, we have no choice. We have to charge the fences, because even though they're locked, we've got to do it with human wave attacks.
Yeah.
Even if we have to climb over each other, no matter how, we have no choice, because they killed every single officer in the camp. They
Wow.
during the previous night and that morning, they slit their throats and they killed every single one of them, which was very difficult for them to do because they were all religious Jews. And the first commandment in religious orthodoxy is you shall not kill, you shall not murder. So that was an incredibly hard thing for them to do, but they did it. And so there was no turning back with the escape. So even once they found out that the chains were still locked and the fences were still locked, they still had to go forward with charging the fences.
Yeah.
And many of them died on those fences because a few soldiers made it to the machine gun nests and were mowing them down. And they still made it over the fences. Many of them crumpled and died at the fences, but some of them climbed over and were able to make it through. And then they went right into a minefield. A
Oh my
minefield.
God.
So over 600 souls escaped, but almost less than 300 ended up surviving that day and
Wow.
actually making it into the forest so that they were actually safe for a period of time. And it's an incredible story that we need to celebrate more often. And that's why I talk about it always in my presentations, to show people what it's really about. And that's what the
Wow.
young lady was talking about.
That's an amazing story. That's amazing. I mean, I've seen other movies with similar plot lines. Um, but yeah, that is a good example of what we have to do. I mean, we're gonna have to charge
Exactly.
that fence. Let's see what else we got here. I heard the Titanic was. This is Steel Raptor again. I heard the Titanic was sunk on purpose because there were some millionaires that were against the privacy of the federal banking system. I believe championed by J.P. Morgan. I've heard those same stories as well. Um, let's
No,
see.
no, JP Morgan was against them. And
Mhm.
he was the one who invited, I think it was a lot of the Astors and all of the very wealthy families in the United States who didn't want the Federal Reserve Bank and didn't want the income tax to become a reality. And they were completely against it. And it was those families that JP Morgan ended up appealing to their sense of vanity and telling them, oh, you guys have to come on this ship. You have to come on this ship and you have to represent your dynasty, and this is going to be great. And so he loaded them all onto that ship. And according to many theories that have circumstantial evidence behind them, he loaded them all on that ship. And that's why he caused the disaster that ended up sinking that ship. And he was able to kill most of them. And even the ones that were left after that, there was no resistance after that to the Federal Reserve Bank. And
Yeah,
Woodrow Wilson was an obedient little little pawn who signed off on everything the globalists wanted after that. He signed off on the United Nations, the income tax illegally, which he made illegally come into fruition. Didn't fulfill any of the requirements for that. And also the Federal Reserve Bank. He brought that into being too.
wow. Yeah, there were some nasty people back then. We got a hello and a good night from Caroline. She's in Montreal, Quebec. So shout out to
Nice.
Canada. Um,
Nice.
let's see. Very touching movie. Okay. I heard the same elaborate insurance fraud, same psychopaths who fund both sides of the wars so they get rich, which is something that they've been doing since the Napoleon War, where he
Right.
lost it to France, but they
Right.
had generals and sent the message to the London Wall Street and said, "Hey, he's won. He's on his way. He's taking over London." Everybody sold all their shares and stocks and everything to the families I won't name, and
That's right. That's right.
literally took over Europe overnight. Next day, when they wanted their shares back, they sold them at like a profit. Um,
Exactly.
and
And
they've been
that's
doing
why.
that, funding both sides of every battle and war,
Exactly.
guerrilla
And
battle.
that's exactly why one of the most harmful things that Trump and the alliance can do against the cabal is to stop the endless wars that the United States has been involved in for generations, probably for
Mhm.
so many decades. And that's like one of the most harmful things, because that cuts off their income for the military industrial complex,
Yeah,
but it also cuts off their income from the drug trade.
right.
Because some of the reasons that we are in these endless wars with these particular countries, is because the drug trade is produced out of these countries, and it flows with CIA presence very easily, as long as we're involved in some kind of war in those countries. That's a huge thing. If he stops every war that the United States continues to be involved in, that is going to reduce their income monumentally. And it's just staggering that he's doing that. That's really staggering. So and not just him, but other political leaders are also, who are part of the alliance, also are now wise to this system of endless wars the cabal has the nations involved in under various guises, and so
Yeah.
they're all starting to do the same things to
Well, I
stop
have
it.
noticed one big change amongst many changes people don't notice. Chemtrails. I haven't seen chemtrails in a while now, a couple months.
Yeah,
Um,
I-
it's like they
yeah,
dried up, or somebody said you can't fly that no more.
right. Yeah, and that's true. And I do believe that QAnon did advise that chemtrails had been taken over by the alliance and stopped all throughout all throughout the United States. You still have some people here and there who say they still see them, but I don't believe it
Mhm.
because QAnon before QAnon went into 90 days of darkness and basically went down for I think it was about 90 days now. Uh, they actually did put out a message that chemtrails have been taken over. Also, 5G. Also, 5G was taken over by the alliance. 5G was going to be used by the cabal to
Mind
interfere
control
with
us
us. Yes,
because it's the same
and
frequencies as our brainwaves.
yes, and not just mind control, but just create interference so that instead of you and I having a civil conversation, we could be at each other's throats and trying to kill each other.
Not knowing why
Because
we're so angry.
right, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
You
love
know,
potion number 9 scenario.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know, Prince, the great artist Prince, before he died, he actually made a statement about frequencies that were used on people in black neighborhoods. He said sometimes he would drive through a neighborhood and it would just be everybody would be happy and a beautiful sunny day, and then a few minutes later he would drive by the same neighborhood and everybody would be arguing with each other and angry and upset with one another. And he said so if you're going to tell me that frequencies are not used against people, he says, I've got evidence to the contrary to show you. Yeah.
wow. No, it's
Amazing stuff.
crazy. We had some more questions. Pat Leal has joined. Someone says, no, they do cover the skies in Phoenix on Sunday. I do know that there are companies that are on the stock market that if you got enough money, they'll spray your town to help seed your. I mean, there
Exactly.
there is a
And
benefit
there
to
are
why it was
other,
created,
yeah,
but it was turned into a nefarious tool over
right,
time.
right. So now everyone who sees these sort of mechanical, normal activities going on, it's all going to be, oh, that's the chemtrails. But I really do believe that the chemtrails have been eliminated.
Yeah, and they are real because I mean, I physically have been, ill from touching it. It's like a spidery web substance that comes down in the middle of the night when the temperature cools, and you see it
Right.
on your, plants and your antenna on your car. And I touched it because it wasn't spidery web; it had that kind of look. And within 2 3 hours, I was deathly ill for 24 hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I've
I'm
had
glad
similar
that they
experience.
cleared that up. Caroline asks Mr. D'Souza, how do you see the explanation gave by Corey Good about the fact that he said your consciousness will define your future?
Oh, I didn't know about that statement, but it sounds good to me.
Oh,
It sounds pretty reasonable and pretty self true. Sounds like a truism to me. Yeah, your consciousness will define your future. Of course, it will.
yeah,
I think that's something we should all be able to get behind for sure.
true,
So
true.
you do have to be careful with the quality of your consciousness for sure.
Right. Well, John, it's coming up on 8:48 AZ time, overtime for you, and I appreciate you taking that time with us and answering some of our guest questions. Um, we got one last one. If you could think you can finish this really quick, can you talk to us about your involvement in the coming Cosmic Secret, real quick? Because I'm kind of
Cosmic
interested.
Yeah, Cosmic Secret is going to be coming up soon. It is the second part to the previous Above Majestic, which was like the number one documentary in the United States for many, many weeks and even months, and on all the streaming services. And Cosmic Secret will be coming out soon, created by Roger Richards. And it's basically going to be a continuation of the same themes and the same ideas and the same hidden history that we are not allowed to know in conventional circles, because everything that we've been told is a lie. Everything we've been taught is a lie. The truth of the world is out there, but we just need to see it. We need to be daring enough to open up our blinders and see what's really going on. And so, Cosmic Secret will be, I'll be putting out the media package for it so people can see this soon, so that people can see the trailers and they can see
I'll
all the
promote it too.
involvement. Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. And we'll be putting that out very soon. And it'll be released pretty sometime very soon here. And I'm very excited for that, because Roger Richards always makes great products and great movies. It's good stuff.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming onto the show again. It's always awesome to have you on. Somebody
Oh,
also said that you blew their mind tonight. So
oh, that's
yeah,
my tagline. I
yeah,
will blow your mind.
awesome.
But also, then, Doc, let me just tell people to please sign up for my great webinar, The Clear Hearers, on Saturday, November 16th from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. And it's available on my Facebook and my website, John Tama Books. That will be the Clear Hearers Workshop. And again, it's on my Facebook. Anybody can sign up for it. And again, it will blow your mind. And also, then the other thing I have is Codes of Awakening conference, January 10th to the 12th, 2020. And that will be in Orlando, Florida. That will be a physical conference, which I'll be doing with Jason Quitt and Brad Johnson. And that's going to be also pretty wild, put on by empoweredlight.com. And again, these are things that people can sign up for at my Facebook or my website, johnthamabooks.com. And that's my
Fantastic.
thing.
Well, thank you so much, John. And real quick, I'm going to do one last little sponsor promo for those that weren't here at the beginning of the show. Psionics, the Psionics Aurora Sport right
Oh,
here.
psionics
Yes.
rules.
Go to psionics.com,
I need one of those.
SIONYX. This is the first ever full color night vision camera. Shoots up to 720, up to 60 frames per second. You can hook it up to your Wi-Fi on your phone and check out the images there. Up to a 32 gigabyte SD card. It does photo, video, loop, playback, and Wi-Fi. So this thing is
So
awesome.
I can see UFOs through that?
Yeah, let me tell you, you'll see what you don't normally see with the naked eye or binoculars or telescope, because it will capture the the light spectrums that we don't see.
Outside of.
And when you look at the stars through this beautiful thing, instead of seeing just 100 or so, you'll see probably more stars than dark space that you will see through this thing. It's mind blowing. If you're into constellations, astronomy, anything like that, this is what you want to get. This thing is so small. Mount it to a tripod or whatever. Just hit record. It does daylight, twilight, and nighttime. And folks, normally you would think this thing goes for $3,000, which it should, but it's going for $399 right now.
What?
$399. Go to
Shut your mouth.
psionics.com
Shut up.
and
Shut up.
check out the video footage on their homepage and see for yourself. I bought this before they became a sponsor. I told them, I said, what do I got to do to be, have you be my sponsor? Because this is so amazing. You will look at the nighttime sky differently. It's great for boating too. If you're having trouble, you're coming up on the coast or coming up to the dock and you can't see, this is great. $399. Now here's the kicker. If you go there and you go into the shopping cart and you purchase one of these, either the Aurora Sport, which is this one right here, or the Aurora, that's forest green. You type in this into the promo code DOC 1028, DOC 1028, and you will get a discount. So great Christmas idea. All right, so that's done. Pay my bills. John, thank you again so much. Always a pleasure to have you. Say hi to
Thanks,
Bella
Doc.
for me, because I always
I
take
will
out
do.
Bella every night.
Will
And
do.
we'll talk soon. I'll give you a call afterwards to do a little recap and say hi to Bella. And
Good deal.
we'll be looking forward to having you up here October 3rd and 4th for DisclosureCon 2020.
Awesome. Thanks so
Yes.
much, Doc. It's been great. 1028
Awesome.
Productions, baby. Awesome.
Thank you. All right. I'm Doc Skinner's 1028 Live. Lord willing, I will talk to you all on Thursday. And what's going on Thursday? Anything? Nope, just Thursday. But we'll have some fun. I don't know who will be here. We'll find out. It'll be exciting. Think of it like a mystery guest. Till then, I'll talk to y'all later. And good night, John. Good night, everybody. Ciao, Bella.